We are not going into too much animation here, but I just tell you in conceptually what the animation is. Okay, and so what is an animation? So here we can go and display something. In our example, we displayed. Close everything here. So go to animation here. So what I've done, I mean the examples are already there available to you, but I'll add one simple example I just created because that's easy for you to understand. Okay. So what the animation does is, again, I extend the application, the start, everything as we've seen before. Okay. Now animation, what it does in a simple language, and different frameworks for graphical user interface define different levels of facility for animation. The idea is the following. Say on your stage or on your window, you may go and display a square or whatever shape you want, or even a button, whatever control you have. So you are just displaying, there is no animation. So the animation in a simple language, of course you have seen a lot, but in a simple language the way we achieve that in this kind of framework is that I have control or a shape or whatever at one particular location. I then want to provide instructions that say after 5 milliseconds can you move that by that much amount. I need to provide that instruction, and every 5 milliseconds it will change the x and y coordinate of that object, for example, and I say can you do that for 100 milliseconds. Now of course I can write a for loop or iterative loop and do it. The whole idea of animation support is that I can provide this instruction in a very succinct manner. So I create an object. There are two ways to do it mainly. The first one is that that's the initial position. You change it in this way over that much time. But of course I can provide that in a very succinct manner, so it will create and it will automatically move that object for me. It will animate that. Then I say, well, that's the one cycle, you finish. I said, do it 10 times, 10 times you finish. But a lot of time you want to keep on repeating. So I say, can you put that in infinite cycle, loops? So it goes and stops, then again it starts, stops, again starts, stops, again starts, stops. The second one is, well, that's a bit annoying because you stop and then suddenly jerks back to the start. So other one says, can you want to have reverse, whatever they call it. So you say it goes here, and then goes back to the same path, and then goes here, so it keeps on doing it for me. This is animation for you. Now what can I change? I can change x and y coordinate, I can change the color, I can change the opacity, I can change the different attributes of that control, whatever the control is, over time. Now the one I described to you is actually a bit more involved because I need to give the original and then I need to tell you what to do at every 5 seconds or whatever. Normally we use the second one, which we are going to show you. The second one is interesting. It says, this is my original position, then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you my last position. Now you work out, and I want to go there after 500 milliseconds. Now you work out how you're going to calculate all the positions in between automatically. So all we say, that's the start position, that's the end position. And I want to go there in whatever milliseconds or seconds you want. And then JavaFX or Angular or whatever, jQuery or whatever, they will calculate all the intermediate positions and accordingly display them for us. And that will happen shortly before you go today. Okay, and so then what is my start position? I can give x and y, or even I can say my rectangle that shape, the end rectangle is half of that. It will gradually decrease the size and the position and give me that. Now there are so many ways I can do. There's a linear interpolation, means is straight away I calculate the values, or there are so many ways we can calculate the intermediate values. So if you see some simulation, what happens in animation, it quickly goes to the destination, it slows it down and slowly goes to the destination, or vice versa. You can write your own interpolation functions also if you want. You can also, instead of going in a straight line, you can also provide the path. So it will go, follow the path and go there. The animation is already there. So this is animation conceptually, applies across all the frameworks. Okay. Now, in Java, it introduced something called key value, keyframe, and time frame. These are typical setups in JavaFX. Okay. Now, I'm going to show it to you through example that's much more easier for you to understand. So look at this simple example. This example is coming from, this is the Java tutorial from Oracle, which is kind of involved. It gives you all sorts of animations, and it's useful to know. But simple example says you start. Now I create a scene, as you know. In the scene, I just put a group here. But the group is empty. There's nothing in the group. Okay. Now I say this fill color of the scene is white. Okay. Now what I do, simple example, I create a rectangle that is an x and y coordinate, and that's the width and the height. Okay. So I create and I say the color of that is brown. Okay. So all I have done is just created a rectangle. Done. Now I create a label, remember, and I convert one into the string, so one as a string, and that my label now, the text is one as a string. Now normally when you create a label, it will be at 0, 0. So I say, can you translate that? So can you move the x-axis by that many pixels and y-axis by that many pixels? So it will translate that to that. It moves that to the corresponding x and y. So x, whatever x plus 50, whatever y plus 50. In our example, both are 0 first, so the last value will be 50, 50. Then all I do is that I go to my scene, find out the corresponding group, and I add the two objects which I created. And then I set to the scene and I show. So this will simply display that to me. Okay. If you want to see what's happening, maybe I'll just show. If I run it, this is what is happening. And you see every cycle it changes the number here. Okay, so that's what is happening. So how I'm doing it, and that's what you want to, and of course we can change the behavior of this. Okay, so now how we are doing it is because initially the label was the number was changing, and the box is this. Okay, the two things only have. Now I can skip this first event handler. We'll come back to that later on. So the first one is that, look, there is a timeline over which I am carrying out my animation. So I create a timeline object over which we're going to carry out that. Now remember I said how many cycles you want to do. So for example, if I don't have this, and if I only put say 2 here, and if I run it now, see what happens. Okay, it will just do 1. That's it. Only 2 cycles, it stops. Got it? So this is where basically I'm saying it's infinite, so it continues. So Control Z, it does. Now reverse is false. What I say false. Okay. So what happens is, if I say reverse false, it will not go backwards. Okay. So it goes that, and then it doesn't go back. Okay. And then it starts again from the original position. So it doesn't reverse back. Okay. So that's all it is. Okay. So that's a bit jerky. So normally we have that as a true, but that's all it does. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Now key value says, give me the target. What do you want to change? This is the target. Target is X property of the rectangle. What should be the value of the target? It should be 300. And how do you want me to calculate the in-between values? We say there are standard interpreters already available. We can write our own, but we don't. We say I just want the linear interpolator, but we can use others one if you want to. Similarly, my next key value is rectangle Y property is also 300. Now I can change that and interpret. Now I say that's the key value, that's my destination, these are my targets. So then what we do, we create our key values, then we put them in our frames. And then frames are put into the timeline, and then we say now play the timeline. So when I play the timeline, it will play all the frames in that. And each frame will have key value which will tell what to do. Okay. So then keyframe simply says in 1400 millisecond, because I put millis here, I can also put a second, you go to this target. In this, go to this target. I can change them. Okay. And the behavior will be different. So that's what is happening. And then all I do is that you simply play. This is the whole end of the program. Simple. Okay. But the last one is more important to what you do next week. So that's the animation part. The last one says that I create another keyframe, and I'm going to attach that to my timeline, key F3 timeline. So it says after every 1400 seconds, And again, I can change that number, but I'm just putting the same here. And the last one says, after, when you create a keyframe, means after that much duration, here I wanted to achieve the target. Here I want to execute, this is my event handler. So I say, after this duration, go to this event handler, go to this event handler and execute a particular method called handle. So whatever we want to do at a regular interval, I'm going to put it there. So how do I create this event handler object? I can create a class which implements action event. This is just the way it should be done, and I implement the corresponding method. Now I can do that separately, but later on we'll talk about so-called anonymous classes in Java. So what we can do here, we can actually we can define a class and create an object of the class, everything in just one statement. Okay, so what's happening here is this. So again, we will go in detail later on, but what happens here is that this is an interface, which is basically event handler, and what you get here is action event. Okay, again, generic types we are talking next. I discussed FX before because you start your project. So last time we covered it later on, and we got a feedback saying why don't we cover it before in a bit more in detail. So I'm spending a bit more time. So basically, event handler, so that's my interface. Now that interface, when I implement, I need to only provide one method, handle. The handle will be given the action event. That event will have all the information about the event, and then I can do whatever I want to do. So what this statement does is that it creates a new object. Which class? The class is actually defined here. This is the class I'm defining on the fly. It's anonymous class, inner class. Okay, so I'm defining the class, and this class is actually implementing this interface. And the class has got only one method, and a lot of time we need to do this, and you will see some more examples of this later on. So my handle says I get the event object. I'm not going to do anything with that. As you see here, I immediately change the field color to blue, so it becomes the blue color. Then I say this is basically the corner of my, so originally my corner, it was rectangle, so corner was 0. Radius of the corner was 0. So if it's 0, then I make both of them 40, 40. So the corner, the radius of the corner becomes 40. Now, of course, you need to know JavaFX API. You don't need to bother about it, but all I'm doing, I'm changing something. Okay, and then I say if not, make it to 0. So it becomes, you know, corner shape and rectangle, and then the curve and the rectangle curve. That's all. I just want to create that image. And then I say simply go and find out the text in that label and add 1 to it and display it again. So that number is increasing. So 3 things are happening, you know. So when I run this application, okay, you see it becomes blue, then it, you know, there's a shape, then becomes a rectangle again. And then, and this